Here we go. I can actually show it. Kyle here from allmediareviews.blogspot.com. I'm going to try doing the Fates Warning rankings, discography / rankings like I did with Marillion and Kevin Gilbert and The Deer Hunter. I don't know how long it's going to take me. I'm going to see if I can do it because they don't have that long of a catalog. But after I get all of them done, there's 13 albums, I think. I will try and rank them. I would say that it's hard to really say where I'm going to put the Arch Matheos stuff in there. It doesn't technically go under that, but it feels like it. But I don't know. I might make two lists. That might be the sort of cop-out way to do it. So today I'm going to start with the debut. I'm not doing the random thing that I did with Marillion. As much as that was fun, it's easier. Just we know what's coming up and everything. And so it starts out with the debut album. You know, they're from Connecticut. All the guys, I believe, are from Connecticut. What city of Connecticut? I don't know. I don't know the geography of Connecticut. Let's see if I can. 1982. Yeah. Hartford. It was. Hartford. That's not the capital of Connecticut anyway. Hartford, Connecticut. So part of it is I got to give my perspective before I get into all the details. The first album was Night on Brocken from '82, but Fates Warning was a band when I discovered, after my interest and my discovery of Rush in high school, Pink Floyd, Zeppelin before that. I never liked loud, heavy music. I didn't I knew Guns N' Roses and Def Leppard, but Metallica was something I didn't really. I didn't absolutely despise it. I remember playing and Nothing Else Matters on an acoustic guitar when I was in high school. I bought an acoustic guitar at a flea market. But as a whole, most Megadeth, thrash metal and metal with just loud, thick, punchy, heavy riffs. Generally, I didn't care for it. Rush had it a little bit. Van Halen I liked, but that was basically the extent of it. But then Dream Theater, when they came along, and I'd liked Black Sabbath, and I'd liked Ozzy's solo music. Dream Theater kind of started to get my taste to open up a little bit more, but I was still pretty much a rock fan. I was a little too small-eared for that at that point. But being a Dream Theater fan and a Rush fan, you're talking on the early days of the internet on the Deja news groups, and Queensryche was a name that came up, but Fates Warning, among other names, but with a sort of heavy bands, Fates Warning was one of the bands, and I wanted to find a band like Dream Theater that gave me something. And Dream Theater at the time only had 3 albums, and Awake was really too heavy for me at that point. I thought it was too loud. So really, I was listening Images and Words and When Dream and Day Unite, and then they put out a Change of Seasons. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm liking this more too. But I was like, I still wanted to find, I love Rush, some of the other Pink Floyd, even Yes and Genesis I didn't like at that point. I was into classic rock, your Springsteens, your Journeys, your, the Zeppelins and stuff. But I finally, decided, all right, I'm going to see if I like this band. And it really was it wasn't the biggest jump for me, but it was definitely a slight jump even from Dream Theater, because it was a lot of their music sounded very 80s sounding. So, but it kind of, a lot of people that don't like heavier music, metal and specifically, it's hard to really get into it. It's hard to really sort of digest and accept it and listen to it. But they were definitely an important band. They probably, because I would say, as a whole, if you think about especially their earlier music, their music is slightly louder and heavier even than Dream Theater in a lot of ways, because it focuses more on the heaviness at times, especially the early stuff. So, all right, so that's my kind of introduction, and it was a slow burn. It wasn't like I got into them immediately. It took me probably a good 1.5 to 2 years, to the point where I actually started to liken them more to Marillion than even Dream Theater, to a point where their sort of melodic sense, the layering, the way they kind of use melodies with the rock guitar at points and using odd times, they weren't necessarily about so much of the intricacies and playing. They could play, but it was really more about playing sort of complex stuff, but within a song structure. It wasn't as jazzy. That was maybe a better way to put it. Whereas Dream Theater, the jazz element was very much prominent, and the technical element. But they were technical enough. So This is their debut album, Night on Brocken. That's talking about all these elements of Fate's Warning sounds. They have, like Marillion and other bands, they changed a lot of lineups and changed sounds, so I'll be talking about that. But this is their first album. This is the first two albums features a different lineup. Specifically, the guitarist, longtime guitarist for many years, Frank Resti, wasn't with the band. It was a guy named Victor Arduini. I believe that's how he spells it, how he pronounces his name. Arduini or Arduni. Here's the picture. So I have the vinyl. I'll show the vinyl in a minute. But it's called Night on Brocken. It was released September 9th, 1984. I should also mention that one of the big reasons why I wanted to do this, but it's almost fitting, is I'm supposed to be getting my, I can't think of the name, the Jeff Wagner book coming, the biography, in the mail, because a lot of people are already getting that. There's been reviews of it. Onward. Something Onward. I've said it in 5 other videos at this point. Destination Onward. It should be coming in the mail any day now. Because a lot of people, I don't know how long it'll take me to read. So that's kind of fitting. I start the Fates Warning, series and ranking. But this is an original, as you can see, from Metal Blade cover. The thing about this is the one I got originally in 1996, I want to say, or maybe 97. I always assumed was the original cover, and I think they had multiple covers, because this is not the only cover either, I don't believe. Because I remember they did reissues eventually, and they had both this and then another cover art. So they had 2 or 3 different versions of the cover art, but I always thought of this album for this cover. Here's the guys. The lineup is John Arch, the original singer, who was on the first 3 albums. Jim Matheos, the only original longtime member of the band, as one of the guitarists. Like I mentioned, Victor Arduni is the other guitarist. Joe DeBias, I used to say his name DiBiase. It was DeBias as the original longtime bass player. He wasn't the only bass player they had, of course, later. And the original drummer, Steve Zimmerman, who was in the band a little bit longer, but a lot of these guys wouldn't stay. Jim Matheos was the only one that among this group that has remained. So. And this album definitely reflects Victor Arduni's sort of, interests, or in the time, they weren't, quote-unquote, prog metal, progressive metal didn't exist. It's just a standard black. I'll just get it off the bat. The 2 best tracks to me have always been on this album. The title track and especially Damnation. But I was just saying, it reflects the sound of not so much progressive metal. Oh, there's an insert. I'm going to have to show that. But they were just the biggest thing is there was the Iron Maiden comparisons, which I get. I've never loved Iron Maiden. They're a little bit like Metallica. I don't mind Iron Maiden. Another band that I probably was paranoid to. Oh, did I just? Yeah, I just did the cardinal sin. Iron Maiden's a band that I've never fully loved. I like certain songs, and to me, a lot of Iron Maiden stuff, if they have a long catalog, can kind of blur. But, Number of the Beast, so the similarities to Iron Maiden, I think, well, if you like this, why don't you like, here's those pictures in a bigger, why don't you like, on Metal Blade, Brian Slagle, of course, signed them, I believe. Yep, he's the first name on the special thanks. Why wouldn't I like Iron Maiden if I like this? And, especially their 80s albums, I'm probably guilty of that to a point. Power Slave is a classic by some people, Peace of Mind, Seventh Son of the Seventh Son. I've spent various amounts of time with them. Number of the Beast is the one that I know the best. But John Arch's vocal style, while it is slightly similar to Bruce Dickinson or even Di'Anno, mostly Dickinson. And this is 84. So it was a few years, I think, after Dickinson had already joined Maiden, because Maiden's first album was like 79 or 80, and Di'Anno was on the first 2. It's kind of similar to some ways in the lineup changes. But John Arch, the way he sings, the style, kind of the way he accentuates different, and then his use of words. While I think Maiden had fancy lyrics, they had the whole Eddie thing, and it was more, I'll call it the cult. This is more sci-fi, I guess you could say, but even at this point, but stylistically, the music on here is reminiscent of new wave of British heavy metal to a point. A little Sabbath in there, maybe a little Deep Purple. And, they were using the twin guitar leads. They weren't using really any keyboards at this point. But, listening to it again today and yesterday, I think it was yesterday, or Saturday, Shadowfax, for example, is an instrumental. There was a jazz fusion band, I think, in the 70s called Shadowfax. I've never spent a lot of time with, but that song, the Night of Brocken? I thought it was Night on Brocken. I guess it's not a title track. That's weird. All these years I've never... It says Night of Brocken. Night of Brocken has different time change and segments, and Damnation does as well. I was listening to it on Spotify earlier, and I have to admit there's one bonus track that was really good. I mean, I guess I understand. There's a couple of them. One of them was like Icarus, Flight of Icarus. I can understand why that didn't make it, but there's a song called Last Call I really enjoyed. I haven't listened to this, the bonus tracks version of the remastering. Buried Alive, The Calling, Kiss of Death, they're all kind of very energetic, punchy. They sound like early thrash metal. They probably were listening to early Metallica and, I don't know about like all those other bands, Anthrax, beyond the big four, whatever it is, Megadeth, hadn't existed at this point. I think the debut was like a year later. But they had that influence, besides being fans of some of the stuff from the 70s. I think Black Sabbath was an obvious one. But I think that, they weren't so proggy, but, with Damnation, Arch's impassioned vocals on that. Although I don't know there's a line that he says, let the rest live. Restive spirits grow. I've never understood what restive means. Yeah, this is it. Here I cried on, but let our restive. So what is the definition of the word restive? I don't know if I've ever heard that word used before. Unable to keep our still or silent. Of a person unable to keep still or silent and becoming increasingly difficult to control, especially because of impatience, dissatisfaction, or boredom. So it's a spirit of someone or something, probably of someone, that needs to get unleashed, needs to sort of be let free, in effect, because it's being held back. Interesting. These guys, Arch was, he's pretty literal, maybe he was a Neil Peart fan, along with, Jim Matthews was a Rush fan, big Rush fan, so I don't know. But it's an interesting, Damnation it just has those dynamics, the sort of impassioned vocals, talks about sort of industries, red, white, black in city masses, corporate buildings spread like rashes, stacked upon each other 40 high. Stabbed each other in the back, you money-hungry maniacs, dig up the earth and spit it in your eye, that's the thing I'll say. The lyrically, that's where they stood out in Arch's vocals especially. Now, I'll get into the next album, The Spectre Within, in the next video. But, clearly this is like sort of a debut album where a band has its influence, definitely sounds like some other bands, but they're kind of bringing in elements that might be a little different that they'd expand upon. Now, I don't know if Victor are doing anything. He's had different interviews. The reasons he left, they're probably addressed in the book. Man, I get around to reading Destination Onward, but I'm guessing where they were going musically, a little bit like John Rutsey with Rush, probably wasn't really his primary interest, and so that's why he didn't stick around. So, but among their catalog, and I love this band. I've been a fan since whatever that was, 1995, 96. So it's been, 20, whatever it is, 8 years, 29 years, 27 years, whatever, 27 years, 26, 27 years. Their catalog is really good in terms of depth. And this record, I probably listened to almost the least. But I remember listening to it a lot when I first got into them. Because the John Arch stuff, while it's different than the stuff that came after with Ray Alder as the vocalist, I really grew to appreciate it. It mirrored Marillion in a lot of ways. Even though that musically they're not identical. But that was another similarity where they had the original singer, and I really appreciate Fish's vocals. But then I loved Hogarth. So... and so that's why I end up listening to this a fair amount. I have some bootlegs from the next tour, which they played a lot of songs off of this. It's a fun album, a very energetic album, but it's not as complex. And, so if you're a metal fan and you're not that into progressive stuff, this would be worth hearing just because if you like Wabam stuff especially. Why am I not thinking some of the other thrash bands besides Anthrax, Testament's not part of that group. Megadeth, Metallica, But there were other bands in there, like Exodus and that whole group, especially on the East Coast. And so they're from Connecticut. They were right in that same area. And of course, Mike Portnoy became a big champion of Fates Warring long before even, I think, Dream Theater, they were known as Majesty, even existed. So, but yeah. So what's your take on Night on Brocken and the song Night of Brocken? This is ridiculous that it's been 27 years before I even realized. I always thought that was a title track. And especially Damnation, because Damnation's one of the songs that Ray actually sang live. And that's Damnation, by a lot of accounts, is the one token track off of this album. I always thought it was the last song, but it ends with Soldier Boy, which I could put Soldier Boy, The Calling, Buried Alive, Kiss of Death. They're very much the sort of energetic, heavy riffs. You know, I was downstairs listening to this, and the two cats were kind of going at it. It was kind of funny. It kind of fit. The energy was very fitting. But yeah, thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. We'll see you next time. All right, so further review. What it looks like here is I have a typo. It is Night on Brocken. I always thought it was. I always believed it was. This says Night of Brocken right there, if I can show it in the light. But that's a misprint. I wonder, I should ask the Fates fans. I wonder if that's even mentioned in the book. Probably not. If I can get the light on this to show it. I don't know, maybe what I'll do is I'll put... No, I don't know if I could do that. I could try to put an image or something in here. I can't get this thing to show up. Maybe if I zoomed in. If you look here, it says OF, but you look on, let's see the CD itself. Yeah, the CD itself says Night on Brocken right there. So that's a typo. I don't know if there's any type of value. No wonder this is kind of not the real cover. I'm looking at it, it's like, wait a minute. So it says Night on Brocken on the cover art. And I didn't even realize this is a little damage. I'm going to paid for it, but yeah, there it is on Brocken. Weird. I was just going to say, you know, like this artwork. I don't know if this guy's like a witch hunter or something else. It's very retro looking, but it's sort of, yeah, like the occult or fantasy. You have the woman. Maybe he's going to capture the woman, and there's like a couple of wolves. I keep on thinking of like, not Little Red Riding Hood, but like some fable, you know, with the guy going into the night with the cape. You know, he's hunting or he's going to capture someone or something. I'm thinking he's either going to take someone or he's saving this woman. You know, I don't know. Again, that when I start to read the book, maybe there'll be more of the lore and the sort of background of what John Arch did most of the lyrics, if not all of them. I think for this, I don't know. Maybe Jim did some of them, but. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So anyway, I couldn't forget to put that. I'll have to put this together. But yeah, but thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.